What if the most brutal moment in women's tennis this year had nothing to do with a match? No dramatic final set. No injury timeout. No emotional press conference. Just a list. A cold, emotionless entry list that dropped like a verdict, and in one quiet moment, told the entire story of two women whose careers are heading in completely opposite directions. Paula Badosa, 4 WTA titles, former world number 2, 2025 Australian Open semifinalist, a player the entire tennis world had already written a comeback story for, is not in the Roland Garros main draw. She is in the qualifying draw. Ranked number 103. And the player who took her spot? A 20-year-old left-hander from the Philippines named Alex Eala, trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy, ranked number 44 in the world, who walked into that main draw without asking anyone for permission. No wild card. No phone call to the French Tennis Federation. No sympathy required. Just a ranking built quietly, ruthlessly, match by match, while Badosa was falling apart. So here is the question that nobody in tennis wants to answer. Is this the beginning of the end for one of the most talented players of her generation? Stay with me because what I am about to show you is going to completely change how you see this sport right now. Let's go back 12 months because context here is everything. 12 months ago, Paula Badosa was not just surviving on tour. She was thriving in a way that felt almost cinematic. She walked into the 2025 Australian Open carrying an injury history that would have finished most careers: hip problems, back problems, a spine stress fracture she has since described as a permanent daily reality she manages with injections and willpower. And yet she reached the semi-final. A Grand Slam semi-final against Aryna Sabalenka, the world number 1, on the biggest stage the sport offers. The tennis world lost its mind. She was voted WTA Comeback Player of the Year in 2024. She climbed back inside the top 10 for the first time since October 2022. The narrative felt clean, earned, and permanent. Nobody was writing collapse articles. Nobody was questioning whether she belonged. The story was simple. She fought back from the edge, she made it, and now the sky was the limit again. So what happened? What turned that fairy tale trajectory into what we are looking at right now? Here is where it gets uncomfortable, because what happened to Badosa in 2026 did not arrive as one catastrophic moment. It would almost be easier if it had. Instead, it arrived as something far worse, a slow grinding erosion that stripped everything away piece by piece, layer by layer, until there was almost nothing left to recognize. The hip did not suddenly give out. The back did not collapse in one match. The mental wall did not appear overnight. It built silently, week after week, result after result, until she sat down on a podcast and whispered words that nobody expected to ever hear from a player of her caliber. She said her body was responding day after day, and that after the fourth bad result, it just became too much. Her mind completely shut down. She did not know if she would even show up to qualifying. Let that land for a second. A former world number 2 does not know if she will board a plane to Paris for a tournament she won as a junior. That is the level of darkness surrounding this situation right now. And it did not happen all at once. So let me take you through exactly how the collapse unfolded. She started 2026 competing through pain because that is simply what she does. Brisbane came and went. Dubai came, and she retired mid-match after dropping the first set, her body sending signals she could not ignore. Charleston, she scraped together 2 wins before Kalinskaya ended her run. And then the clay season arrived and everything completely fell apart. Linz was supposed to be her lifeline. She accepted a wild card there specifically to build ranking points before the Roland Garros entry list closed on April 14th. She had a plan. She knew exactly what she needed. And then she walked out onto a clay court and lost in the first round to an 18-year-old Austrian wildcard ranked number 117 in 2 sets. That single result dropped her to number 105 and effectively sealed her fate. The Roland Garros main draw cutoff closed. Badosa was 5 positions outside it. Not on the bubble, not fighting for the last spot, 5 places short, sitting in a qualifying draw alongside players who peaked a decade ago and players who have never once cracked the top 100 in their careers. For a woman who reached world number 2, that is not just a logistical inconvenience. That is a public reckoning with how far things have actually fallen. And then Madrid happened, and Madrid made everything worse. She entered as a wild card at her home event, a WTA 1000 tournament where she once announced herself as a genuine clay court force. She lost in the first round to Julia Graber in 3 sets. The match lasted 2 hours and 35 minutes. She fought. Nobody can take that away from her. But she described the third set as something she has never experienced before, a complete mental blackout where she had nothing left to give and no way to find it anywhere inside herself. Not a tactical failure. Not a physical breakdown. A total shutdown. Her team saw it. She saw it. And after that match, the decision was made. She was stopping. No timeline. No return date. Just a full stop on competing until she figures out whether she can find the version of herself that knows how to win tennis matches again. And here is what makes this situation genuinely painful. The physical tools are still there. In that Madrid match, you could still see flashes of the player who reached a Grand Slam semifinal 15 months ago. But flashes are not enough at this level, and she knows it. Because here is the question that keeps everything else in this story moving. While Badosa was losing that match in Madrid, where exactly was Alex Eala, and what was she building? Eala's trajectory over the same period is almost disorienting to track if you were not watching closely. She started 2026 ranked number 44, already a historic figure in Philippine tennis as the first player from her country to break into the WTA top 100. And then she just kept going. Auckland, semifinals. Indian Wells, 4th round. Miami, 4th round. On March 16th, she hit a career-high ranking of number 29, the highest any Filipino player, man or woman, has ever reached in WTA history. She was no longer a story. She was a genuine presence at the top of the sport. And that matters more than people are giving it credit for, because there is a very specific reason why her ranking absorbed a difficult clay season without crisis. And it is the structural advantage that separates rising players from declining ones in a way that the rankings almost never lie about. Think about it this way. She has no significant points to defend on clay from 2025. She dropped only 35 points at Madrid and 10 in Rome. Every match she plays from here is essentially free real estate on the leaderboard. She is not trying to protect a position. She is building one. And that changes everything about how you approach a tournament, how you approach a match, how you approach a moment when the pressure is highest. After Madrid, Eala did not dwell. She did not post about the loss. She posted a photo from the Rafa Nadal Academy, thanked the city, and got back to work. Her schedule from here is built entirely around arriving at Roland Garros with maximum clay court match practice stacked in her legs. The Italian Open in Rome runs through May 17th. She is in the main draw. If she exits early enough, she drops down to Parma for the WTA 125 event from May 11th to 16th. Then Paris on May 24th. That is an aggressive, deliberate, calculated schedule. It is the schedule of a player who knows exactly what she is building toward and refuses to treat any match as inconsequential. Now contrast that directly with where Badosa is right now, taking a break of unknown length because she needs to find the will to compete again. One player cannot get enough clay court matches. The other cannot find the mental energy to board a plane to France. Those are not just different situations. They represent completely different relationships with professional tennis at this exact moment in time. And the entry list captured that difference in the most unforgiving format imaginable. Here is why that matters beyond just these two players. The broader picture this situation exposes is something the WTA Tour is quietly grappling with right now. The injury epidemic among established players, Badosa, Swiatek dealing with her own issues, various others cycling in and out of competition, has compressed the timeline for younger players in a way that simply would not have happened in a healthier field. Eala's rise is entirely her own achievement. Every point she earned is legitimate. But the speed at which players like her have moved from wildcard entries to main draw certainties has been accelerated by the fragility at the top of the sport. The window opened faster than anyone predicted. And Eala walked through it without hesitation, without apology, and without looking back. What she does with that window at Roland Garros 2026 is the next chapter. She has beaten top 10 players before. She took down Madison Keys and Iga Swiatek in back-to-back matches at Miami 2025 as a wild card ranked number 140. She knows what it feels like to be the underdog who shocks an entire stadium. The question now is whether she can perform as the player who is expected to win matches rather than just cause upsets. That is a completely different kind of pressure. Roland Garros is going to test it in every possible way. For Badosa, the question is starker and far more personal. Can she find her way back to the player she was 15 months ago? The physical tools are still there when her body cooperates. The competitive fire is still there. 2 hours and 35 minutes in Madrid against a top player proved she is not surrendering without a fight. But the mental wall she has described is not a minor obstacle. It is the kind of barrier that has permanently reshaped careers into something smaller than what they were before. Paula Badosa was the 2015 French Open Junior champion. She was literally crowned on Paris clay as a teenager. She was once the future of the sport on that surface. Now she is in a qualifying draw she publicly said she might not even participate in. The symmetry of that is genuinely painful. And yet, the break she is taking right now might actually be the smartest decision she has made all season. Because there is a version of this story where she comes back in the second half of 2026 with something to prove and a clear head to prove it with. There is also a version where this marks the moment the decline became irreversible. Nobody knows which version is true yet. Not her. Not her team. Not anyone watching from the outside. Roland Garros 2026 begins on May 24th. One of these two players will be there in the main draw, competing on Paris clay with nothing to explain and nobody to convince. The other does not know if she will even make the trip. That is not a storyline anyone scripted. It is just the ranking system doing exactly what it always does, telling the absolute truth about where every player actually stands, regardless of who they used to be or what they were supposed to become. The entry list has spoken. The clay court does not negotiate. And right now, in the most shocking way this sport knows how to produce, Alex Eala is exactly where Paula Badosa expected to be, and Paula Badosa is nowhere to be found.